But my gosh, it didn't take long for both UNC and NC State to leave us going, all right, well, I got free time the rest of the day. It was 28-0 Clemson after one quarter. Mike Glennon, who was a legend at State and a 10-year NFL veteran. What was that on Saturday for the Wolfpack? By the way, you can catch him and our friend Tim Donnelly in Pack Therapy every week. You guys are going to need a lot of things. You guys need 2 couches in here when you record this week.
That's the idea behind Pack Therapy, is for weeks like this. I can't remember a Dave Doeren, Tony Gibson defense getting completely manhandled the way that they did, really ever. So that was a complete domination by Clemson, particularly up front at the line of scrimmage. NC State's defensive line and linebackers were just getting eaten up by the offensive line, and on the second level with the secondary, they weren't tackling well. 28-0. You go back and think, if NC State's not going to win this game, it's probably going to be because they're playing a true freshman at quarterback. And CJ Bailey played really well. They were down, 21-0 before you blinked your eye, and it was over at that point. And really that falls on the defense.
All right. Some of it, though, falls on him. He had he had one fumble. He had the one fumble. There was, Casey Concepcion, I believe, fumbled the other time. But that's such an overwhelming situation to throw a guy making his first start into. But I think you're right, ultimately, that NC State has really given up a bunch of big plays through 4 weeks of the season, not just to Tennessee and to Clemson, but you go back to the Western Carolina game early on against Louisiana Tech before they finally figured it out. What do you make of that? Is it with this personnel, is it scheme, or is it just personnel?
I don't think it's scheme. I think it more falls on personnel, that the defense line and linebackers are just not, I don't know if it's strong enough or powerful enough, but they're just not winning at the point of attack. And I think you look back to last year and realize what a difference, obviously, Peyton Wilson made, and he may have covered up a lot of the holes. But right now, it's just, like you mentioned, it's been big plays in most of the games, and a lot of times it feels like whether it's a running back or, in the Clemson example of Cade Klubnik, quarterback going untouched for, long touchdowns. So they need to get that figured out, because, I don't think 2-2 is that big of a surprise when we saw that they started with, Tennessee and Clemson. But right now, this team doesn't look like a team that we all expected to start the year.
Mike Glennon is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Wolfpack. It was 28-0 in the first quarter. The things that really jumped out to me was 4 touchdown drives. There was a 2-yard run, but the other touchdown plays, the 55-yard Cade Klubnik untouched run, good in flag football, good in one-hand touch, 31-yard pass completion, and a 38-yard run after a turnover that was a one-play drive. There were 16 plays, 222 yards in the first quarter. Again, the game was over at that point. Dave Doeren said after the game that they were going to figure out who was willing to play hard. How does something like that, is that a product of so many transfer portal additions to this team, or is there something else going on?
I don't know. That's a good question. And I think that's what surprised me so much about, you go back and watch it, was Dave Doeren's, kind of motto is hard, tough, together. And typically they play that way on the field. Last week, it did not look like – they looked like everyone was gassed. It looked like physical, just getting blown off the ball. It just didn't feel like what we've grown to know from Dave Doeren and Tony Gibson over the years. So, whether it's transfer portal, I don't know the answer to that. But to give Dave credit is, and history kind of shows that he does a good job, circling the wagons and making adjustments kind of mid-season and getting the ship headed in the right direction, just like we saw last year.
Mike Glennon is with us here. You can listen to him and Tim Donnelly. They will be reclining on couches during Pack Therapy this week. the it's not 2-2 with losses to Tennessee and Clemson. Right now, if they decided to come up with a 12-team playoff, I actually think both teams would be involved. I think Clemson has shown themselves these last two games because I think App is at least good, and I think State is ultimately at least good, and those were just two absolute demolitions. So I think Clemson is one of the best 11 teams in the country. How do you assess where State is based on the way they played against Western and the way they played against Louisiana Tech? Does that paint a bad picture, or is there still a good team in there somewhere?
Yeah, I think it paints a bad picture just because you get totally dominated in the two kind of games that you're an underdog. But even in the two games that you win, it came down to the fourth quarter against teams that are clearly not at the same skill level as what NC State should be. So, this week, Northern Illinois comes in. I don't know if they just it was a fluky performance against Notre Dame
Right.
and Wake next week. I mean, the rest of the schedule feels like they're all winnable games, but the way this team is playing right now, they also feel like they could be losable games. So I'm sure Doeren and his staff are doing a lot of reflecting and self-scouting this week to see what they can do to get this thing back on track.
Tell me what you like about C.J. Bailey, and do you think that the Wolfpack should stick with him or go back to Grayson McCall?
Yeah, I think they should stick with him. He looked like he belonged, and for a true freshman to have his first career start in a place like Death Valley, I thought he handled himself really well. It didn't feel too big for him. He looked the part. He made some good throws. I think that what impressed me the most is he was kind of getting the ball out on time, and he was accurate. You kind of see his arm strength and athleticism as well. So I don't think the beginning of the season completely falls on Grayson McCall, but if they're similar in what they can do for the team, I think you have to go with what's also best for the future. And clearly, a true freshman versus a sixth-year senior, I think C.J. Bailey, should be the guy going forward.
All right. Before I let you go, let me ask you very quickly about Andy Dalton and Bryce Young, because I'm sure you pay attention to that. And by the way, have the Miami Dolphins, one of your former teams, have they called you?
Well, I think that ship has sailed, but it was a very eerily similar situation when they picked me up 2 years ago with Tua's concussion, and then Skylar Thompson became the starter. And next thing you know, I was down there. I know Teddy Bridgewater is coaching high school football down there now. I wonder if he could become a part-time, keep his coaching gig at night and go play for the Dolphins during the day.
But you're off. You're out of the game. You're done.
I'm done. I'm done, Adam.
Are you 100% positive?
Yes, I am 100% positive.
All right, it's fine. All right, now, how can it look? I mean, look, Bryce looked like he regressed, and Andy Dalton obviously had a ton of energy, and I think everybody else did too, at the prospect of just looking like a credible NFL outfit. But that was certainly eye-opening what Andy Dalton was able to do. Explain how it looks so dramatically different.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a kind of a bad look for Bryce Young because Andy Dalton looked so good. I mean, the offense, not only did they look like an NFL team, but they looked very good. And Andy Dalton, I mean, some of the throws he was making was very impressive for a guy that hasn't really played a ton of football in the past couple of years, and he's probably 36, 37 years old. I was really impressed with him. I do think sometimes when you make a change like this, you do get a little spark within the locker room. But with that being said, I mean, Andy Dalton looked like maybe the best quarterback all day yesterday. So kudos to him for seizing his moment and all that. But it is definitely a tough look on Bryce that the offense looked that much, they looked like they were a functional offense. And
Yes.
then not only that, but playing at a high level. Deontay Johnson has a career day, a receiver, and clearly with Bryce, that wasn't the case. So Andy Dalton looked really good, and now, I saw there were kind of reports that they may consider going back to Bryce at some point. I don't know if that was just for trade purposes or
Yes.
what, but I don't see a situation in the near future that that'll be happening.
No, not when you got players smiling and jumping around and hugging each other after the game. At some point, Dave Canales is like, we got to do what's best for the group. Because I'm not sure that David Tepper and company haven't already made the decision that Bryce ain't it. Which is, if they want to do that, that's fine. Because it's already sunk costs. They already gave up what they gave up to get him, and you can't just keep diving in just because, well, we already did that, so we have to do this. No, man, you got to do what's best for the entire football team, the entire organization, and maybe that is moving on beyond Bryce Young. Mike Lennon, NC State legend, a 10-year NFL veteran who assures us that his phone is on silent for notifications if the Dolphins are calling. Mike, thank you very much, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Adam. See you next time.
You got it.